Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In this particular video, we are going to discuss about the recent threat that seems to have come from the US administration, more specifically the President of US Donald Trump, where he has threatened to basically impose heavier tariff on both India and China on the ground of both countries importing huge amount of oil from Russia as such. So the question and this most important question that is in front of us, that such kind of threat can cause or can basically deter India and China to reduce their oil import or not, and whether they can come to rescue Trump, as the prevailing view states that it seems that in this particular scenario, India and China may not help Trump a lot. They will not come to rescue Trump to get Putin to stop the Russia-Ukraine war. So let us try to understand this in more detail. Now we know that recently Trump has taken what we can call as adversarial stance as far as India is concerned. He has continuously given a statement where he has talked about India being a tariff king, and on that ground he also has increased the overall tariff rate on imports from India to United States of America, and currently this rate stands at 25% as such. Also, he has repeatedly hit out at New Delhi because he has blamed that it is New Delhi and Beijing. These are two countries, because they are importing heavy amount of oil from Russia, they have been able to run Putin's war machine, and because of this oil revenues, Russia and Putin are emboldened to keep on attacking and killing and snatching territories in the Ukraine as such. Now, he also has stated that because of New Delhi's ties with Moscow, and there is no other option but for US to increase the tariff rate very substantially, and he has said that he will do it within 24 hours. Now, he has not said what exactly will the new tariff rate. He has kept the figure in dark as such. They are fueling the war machine, and if they are going to do that, then I am not going to be happy. That is the kind of statement we have seen coming from the Trump's office as such, and such kind of statement also have been reiterated by the senior officials of Trump administration. Now, if you look at Trump's tactics, what is the tactics that he has followed, especially as far as this what you can call as Russia-Ukraine war is concerned? Because if you remember, in the early terms of his presidency, especially in the early January, February, when he came into power, he has promised that he would end Russia-Ukraine war in a very short period of time. But it seems that all of his diplomatic what you can call as outreach to Russia has failed, and there is no end in sight for the war as such. And it seems that now he has taken aggressive stance, and now he has begun to blame China and India because they are the one who are fueling Russian war machine as such. This is what he believes. So the tactics that he has employed is, obviously he has focused on publicly censoring oil import by these two countries. He has also raised a tariff threat, and he has said that tariff can be increased all the way up to 100%. And recently even US Congress has backed such kind of initiative, because Senator Lindsey Graham we talked about, he also has backed a bill which is being supported by majority of US senator, and there in the bill the tariffs can be imposed all the way up to 500%. That kind of power may be granted to the President of the United States such. Also, he has backed his promises of tariff or his threat of tariff by giving an ultimatum to Russia. Initially he said that Russia will have 50 days before they can end the war. Now he has said that Russia will have only 10 days, and after that strong actions will be taken by US as such. And it is in this context we have to understand the pressuring on India and China to isolate Russia can be understood as one of his strategy to overall what you can call as reduce Russian revenue, and also to isolate Russia in the international sphere as such. And overall what you can call as, this is nothing but an example of a strategic brinkmanship, and this is what is evident from the US and the Trump's policy as such. Now, if we take a look at that, why US and also European Union, because we talked about before, NATO Secretary General also has warned that if India and China continue to do business with Russia, they will be penalized by heavy tariff as such. So why they are interested? The reason is because if you look at pre-war and post-war scenario, if you take a look at year 2021, when the war did not begin, we can see that majority of Russian oil and gas were supplied to European Union. They had a share of over 45%. If you look at this graph here, similarly UK and US used to also buy significant amount of oil from Russia, somewhere between 8 to 10%. Then third largest buyer was China. And interestingly, if you look India's share in the oil import from Russia was very, very low. It was in the range of 2 to 3% only of the entire India's import basket as such. Now, situation changed drastically after 2022, because you know that in the year 2022 is February month is when you have the beginning of war, and after that heavy sanctions were imposed on Russia, and you can see there is a drastic reduction of the oil import from Russia to the US, European Union and the UK as such, and this was compensated by China, India. You can see interesting development here. China's share has increased obviously, but as compared to the pre-war and post-war scenario, the maximum increase we have seen is in the share of India, where before war the Russian oil made up only 2 to 3% of India's import basket. After war, the increase has been witnessed, where currently 35 to 30% of India's total oil import comes from the Russia, the seaborne oil, as you can call it, what you can call as exported to Russia by ships and tankers and all that. Now, before understanding that how this all will play out in the near future, I would want to bring your attention to the fact that Legacy IAS Academy, we are going to launch our batches soon for the UPSC aspirants. The batches are going to commence on 9th and 11th of August. This is going to be weekday as well as weekend batches. Now, we believe that in UPSC, you need to have a proper and comprehensive understanding of all the general studies paper. All the papers are equally important, and that is why we focus on that in our classroom programs. We also have one-to-one mentorship and doubt solving session, so students can ensure that whatever questions, whatever doubt they have, they are not taking them, they're not taking doubt with themselves to the home, they're getting it cleared in the institute itself. You also have regular interactions with educators both in and out of the classroom, and to ensure that this interaction is to the maximum extent, we have a strict policy of ensuring maximum 40 students per batch to maintain ideal pupil teacher ratio as such. Also, we believe that preparation of UPSC should be done in an integrated manner right from the start, that you have to tackle prelims, mains and interview, and that is why from the very beginning, once you got a hang of the syllabus, you need to practice answer writing so that you can tackle any kind of mains question with full confidence in the examination. And obviously, you cannot have a good preparation without evaluating yourself from time to time. And to ensure that, we also have test series both for the prelims as well as mains examination. Based on the feedback from the test series, then students can further streamline their preparation, can further analyze their strength and weaknesses and such. And also, we focus on 360-degree coverage of current affairs as well. If you want to know more detail about these programs, the courses and features, you can click the link in the description box of this particular video. You can also download our Legacy app, which will go a long way in helping you to prepare for the UPSC examination. You can also give the call at the number being displayed here if you have any other question related to this particular programs as such. Now, the question that comes, that though we have seen in the recent time European Union, United States as well as NATO threatening India and China with heavy tariff, is the threat working? And in the simple way, if you try to understand the answer, the simple answer is no, because neither India nor China has responded to the threat in the way how Trump might have imagined. Both countries have taken a stern stance, and they have released a public statement through the Ministry of External Affairs in India and Foreign Ministry in China, that they are going to prioritize their energy security first, they are going to prioritize the national interest first, and while doing so, they also have called out on the what you can call as the oil and various different type of commodities being continuously imported by European Union and US from Russia itself. So this is something that is what India's response has been. And if you try to understand what kind of response India has given, so obviously, first of all, I told you that India has pushed back strongly via the official statements released by the Ministry of External Affairs. They have emphasized on the national interest and the energy security, that is going to be their guiding factor as far as India's bilateral relations, diplomacy or international relations are concerned. So overall, what you can say, the threat does not seem to be working, because India has refused to bow to US pressure of tariff as such. Tariff planning and branding pivot is something that we are seeing as well. And also interestingly, while all these things are being played out in media, we have seen a visit of National Security Advisor of India, Ajit Doval, to Russia amid all this tension. That is going to be one of the major bilateral high-level visits between India and Russia. And also, while releasing a statement, the MEA spokesperson, the Sawal, has outlined that India and Russia enjoy the time-tested and very strong partnership as such. This is how we can understand the response of India, sir. Now, the question comes that how New Delhi has released a statement, what kind of statement they have given. So, first of all, obviously, they have stated that we are going to prioritize our national and economic interest first, but at the same time, they also have pointed out the double standards being shown here both by US and European Union. In the statement released by Ministry of External Affairs, a spokesperson has clearly highlighted that in the early days of war, it was US and European Union which has encouraged India to buy oil from Russia by not sanctioning Russian oil but largely putting a price cap of $60 per barrel. And this was done to ensure energy security and ensure global energy security, because if India stops buying oil from Russia, if China suppose stops buying oil from Russia, then they have no other option but to look at the traditional market, that is of Arabian region, and there is a high demand of oil from the US and European Union. So in that case, obviously it will lead to a sudden upsurge in the oil prices, and that will not be devastating only to the domestic economies of India and China, but that will also put a strain on the global economy as such. So like any major economy, India will take all necessary measures to safeguard its national interest and economic security. At the same time, India also has outlined here, highlighted that US, though it is asking India, though it is pressurizing India and China to reduce import from Russia, at the same time US continues to import uranium hexafluoride, that is very vital for the nuclear industry of USA. It also is continuously importing palladium from Russia, that is vital for its electrical vehicle industry, as well as fertilizers and chemicals are also being imported by US from Russia as such. So while importing several commodities, important critical commodities and minerals from Russia, US is now asking India and China to stop buying Russian oil, and that is something that is a clear case indication of double standard, and that is something that India has highlighted here. Now when President Trump was asked about all this, he has said that he did not have any information about what and how US is importing from Russia as such. European Union on the other hand, also MEA spokesperson Radhi Jaiswal has clearly highlighted that European Union, if you compare the EU and Russia trade between 2023 and 2024, it seems that they have increased the overall trade volume, and today it stands somewhere about $16 billion, which is higher than last year such. So this is how we have to understand overall the response of India that has come. Now here also we can see the statement coming from the US ambassador to India, Eric Garcetti, where he has clearly stated that India did not buy Russian oil just to help Russia or to ensure that Putin is able to wage a war and continue the war. India brought Russian oil because US wanted somebody to buy Russian oil to ensure that the prices remain in a moderate and low range as such. And this is what US Ambassador Garcetti himself is saying. So India buying Russian oil does not have any kind of violation, it does not have any kind of price cap violation, and doing so was in the interest of US as well. That is why you can understand in early years US encouraged India to buy buy oil from Russia. So the question comes that why Trump suddenly has begun to rage and put a tariff threat against the policy of India, which US encouraged in the early days of war. An answer we can understand from a statement coming from Michael Krugman. He has clearly stated that if Putin were not ignoring Trump's call, because if you understand in the early days, early years, Trump was directly trying to negotiate and call Putin, and he was trying to bring him to the ceasefire talks and all that, but it seems that Putin has ignored the request or what you can call as discussions with Trump, and that is why Trump likely would not be going after India so hard for buying Russian oil. He is clearly taking his frustration with Putin out on India. So it seems that Trump has basically lost all his cards and he does not have any card to play directly with Russia, and that is why he is venting his anger and frustration on the China and India as such. Now we try to understand that how India's oil import basket had changed. So as we can see from here, in 2021-2022, we have discussed that majority of oil India used to import from Saudi Arabia and Iraq. They collectively made up roughly 42% of India's import basket, and third number you had UAE. So if you combine all these Gulf countries together, that is Iraq, Saudi Arabia, UAE and even Kuwait, we can see that almost 60% of India's oil import come from these four countries. Russia had only 2% of share, and that has changed significantly, because talk about the last fiscal year, Russia itself has taken a first position at 35% increase, while the share of traditional partner like Iraq, Saudi Arabia and UAE has seen a slight decline as such. So this is something that Trump has outlined and might have taken into consideration while venting his anger and frustration. As far as China's stance is concerned, we can clearly see that China has clearly stated that it will also ensure its energy supplies in ways that will serve their national interest. Coercion and pressuring will not achieve anything. This is a clear statement coming from the foreign affairs spokesperson of China. Also, we can see that these tone clearly defy the US demands, and they also, like India, have prioritized their energy sovereignty. They still have not taken any decision. Neither India has taken nor Chinese government has taken any decision to curb the Russian oil supply. They have continued buying Russian oil despite US pressure. So there seems to be no alignment with the punitive rhetoric of United States, both in China or India as such. Now the question is where this entire thing is headed. Will Trump go ahead with his tariff, what you can call as tariff threat or not? The answer is there is a doubt, because many of the scholars and experts who are close to US administration, they believe that there is a very there is a very strong doubt that President Trump would allow actually deployment of 100% tariff, because that will hurt US economy in the end as well. Realizing those threats would derail also, because one of the major poster that Trump and Xi Jinping want to come up with is a very big trade deal that both of countries wanted. So if US goes ahead and impose tariff on China for buying Russian oil, that would probably kill any chance of any significant US-China trade deal. And if the US is bent on imposing tariff, at least China will fight to the end, and this is China's consistent official stance also. For example, if you go back in the days when Trump has put retaliatory tariff on all the economies, major economies, in that case we have seen that China also has counteracted those tariff, and there was a situation when the tariff on Chinese goods rose as high as 145% and tariff on American goods to China rose as high as 138% as such. Since then again the trade war has calmed down, but again if similar situation is repeated, it would seem that China would take similar measures, it will take countermeasures, and it would retaliate rather than bowing down to US demand as such. That is all about this particular video. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with your aspirants, as a subscribe to the channel for more such content. Thank you very much.